selections. There are a few different ways to make a selection. You got the rectangular marquee tool. I clicked and hold to get that box to pop up here. I got an elliptical one, and you got a single row or single column. I've honestly never used a single row or column tool. You're more power to you if you use it. And actually, I generally don't use these that much. I generally prefer to draw my shapes out because I'm usually cutting and pasting ambiguously shaped forms. And this is what we're going to do now. So that's where there's the lasso tool, polyagonal tool, the magnetic lasso tool, and then there's also, if you use other programs, there's the magic wand tool, which is going to allow me to select colors within a certain range. So here, let me select all the blacks, and I can adjust the tolerance on there. And then there's this one, the magic, that's the one I was at, the quick selection tool. If I have a selection that I don't want anymore, instead of undoing it, I can undo. I can press Command D, and that'll deselect it. Right? As you start to learn the commands on the keyboards, there'll actually be a more efficient process of navigating and editing your image than by using a lot of these tools up in the menu bar. Okay, relying on that. We're doing the quick selection. So here, let's say I want to grab the grass around it. I can click and drag, and you can see it's starting to recognize the grass around there. But it has a tendency to jump, right? You can adjust the size of this, but you can't adjust the tolerance on it, right? And so I find this one to be, it can be effective in some ways if you have a very good contrast to the image. If you're really working with something that has very defined blacks and whites, but in a lot of ways, there's the contrast on this image is not that great. The whites in here are too close to the whites or the lighter tone browns in the background. The legs are there, and so it's going to want to grab it too quickly, right? But this quick selection tool is a quick way to get certain amounts of information, or at least getting started. You can see it even grab the leg right there too quickly, right? And so I generally work within these lasso, polyagonal, or magnetic lasso tools. But just because that's the way that I work does not mean that those are the tools you have to rely on. As long as the tools that you rely on are effective and successful, right? So I'm not asking you to duplicate my working process. Rather, I want you to find your own, but I'm trying to give you the means to get there. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my base image here, and I'm going to work on selecting just this bird's legs. All right, to do that, I'm going to zoom in, which is going to be Command plus. Scroll down, and then I have the lasso tool, and I'm just going to do an outline of the bird's legs. All right, I'm going to go quick here now, so I don't take too much time, but also so I can show you a couple other different steps. All right, so I have one selection made here of the left leg of this bird, right? But you can see that there's parts of the bird on the left side that I missed out. There's also obviously the lower half of this bird's leg, which I've learned that these birds this is actually the wrist of the bird. This is the elbow, and then the shoulder is actually up in here. Flamingos are the same way. So beyond the bird's wrist right here, it was not selected at all, so I'm going to have to add that selection. If I go and I start to draw in this area right here, oops, that's my O shape button there. You can see the selection went away, right? Let me finish it up. I can't add to that selection. The way that I need to add to that selection is I need to come up to the control panel, and I need to choose this option, which is going to be, it's called Add to Selection, Subtract from Selection, or intersect with selection. So I want to do the add to selection button, right? What that's going to allow me to do is add additional pixels into the selection that I have so I can kind of get the full range of this bird's leg, right? There you go. You see I didn't lose a selection, but rather just added more information to it. Come down here. There you go. All right, so I have the left leg of this bird selected. Let's say I came over here and I had more information. I had some of the background that I didn't want, and I want to get rid of that. The way I'm going to need to do that is I'm going to have to do the subtract from selection option, right? So I'm going to come up to here. I started my selection, and I click that subtract from selection option. I come around here, and I don't have to bring it all the way back to the beginning. I just have to bring it here, and as soon as I let go, it deselects it for myself, and you can see it took that information away, that selection away. All right. Now to get the hand of this bird, the forearm of this bird, I'm going to go to the polyagonal lasso tool. Same thing. First thing you do every time you switch a selection, you need to make sure you have the correct subtract, add, or new on there. Okay. So I need to check here. You can see this is when it's just a single square. That means new. So because I want to add on to this, I'm going to click the Add To button, which is the 2 overlapping squares, solid, filled in shapes. Then I'm going to click here at the wrist there, come down to here, here. I'm going to do this quickly. I'm not going to do the whole foot quite yet. All right. The polyagonal tool, though, as you can see, is giving me only straight lines. So if you're doing a princess crown or something like that, that would be great. Or a saw, that would be great. All right? But it's not necessarily the best choice for an organically shaped edge, right? Those jagged lines are going to make it a lot more work, right? So I'm going to undo one step. But I'm using it here because I'm saying, you know what? This leg is fairly straight. All the way down. That. I get up to there and I can press enter. And that'll close it off. And you can see because I had the add to selection, it added that information on. Now I'm going to be picky a little bit. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to kind of check out to see where I need some improvements on here. You could also use, rather than zooming in and using the scroll ball, you can use this hand. This is actually a little bit nicer. All right, kind of move that around. You can be able to adjust things a little bit more specifically there. Click onto here. And make sure I have the Add To selection selected. And get a little bit more of this leg here now. All right, there we go. Added that leg on there. The next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go and choose this magnetic lasso tool. This one I struggle with a little bit still. What it's going to do is it's again going to look at the contrast between the two different objects and make an assumption of what I want to select. All right, so for the polyagonal and the lasso tool, it went based on the information, the route or the path that I told it to go. The magnetic lasso tool is going to give you, it's going to make a little bit of assumption based on giving contrast within there, right? So I'm going to click here. You can see that it's starting to put anchors down along this edge, right? If I come over here, if I jump over here, you can see it's going to start generating anchors off of the foot. So you really still have to kind of go in there. But if you click, you can start adding anchors of your own. And what did I do wrong? I didn't go up to there and do the Add To button, right? And if you go up and do that, that's exactly what happens, is it runs away from you, okay? All right, so I press escape. I'm gonna come back down to here. I still have my selection, click that, and then you do the Add To button, all right? Good job. Show tunes. I was going to say Cody. I don't know why I was thinking Cody. All right, Miranda. Was that a sneeze by somebody? Is that a sneeze? Okay, health. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Alright. You can see it's not perfect. And that's okay because I'm going to go back in and I'm going to select, improve upon it. Alright, so I want to come back to here. I can come back to the lasso tool. I'm going to do the add to. I'm going to drag, shape that in there real quick. There we go. Now look, so we're just going to stick with just this left leg here now. What I want to teach you guys how to do, and this is a fun thing, you don't feel like you need to know it right now, but it's actually very accessible, especially if you're working with multiple layers in an object, is I can save a selection. And it's just the selection in this image, assuming that the image stays the same size. So I'm going to go up to select. I'm going to press save selection. I'm going to call it left leg right there. Alright, it's going to create as a new channel. That's fine. Channel is new. Color harmonies. That's a document I'm working on. I press OK. Doesn't look like I did anything, right? But I did, right? So I'm going to come back to layers. I'm going to press Command J. I duplicated that layer. You can see that there, right there. But I lost that selection. All right. So if I want to adjust something just within this layer, right, just within this birds right here, without adjusting the layer as a whole, I'm going to choose Load Selection, Channel, Left Leg, okay, and you see I have my selection there, right? And then I can move that selection around wherever I want, right? Okay. Initially, saving selections is not going to be really much of a priority, but down the road, especially if you start using Photoshop more, it can come in very handy, okay? Especially if you're trying to decide something without having to make a decision. All right. That was the Save Selection tool. Save Selection, Inverse. Suppose I am working on the document and I did the bird's leg, but I find I do this a lot. Shit, where'd that selection go? And oh, cancel it. See, I can't go backwards before the selection. Right there. Okay. And I don't want the leg, but rather I want all the information other than the leg. All right. Sometimes I find that it's more convenient to select the other information and then select the inverse of that. All right. To do that, I'm going to go to Select, Inverse, or Command-Shift-I. Right. And what that's going to do is you can see, you still see the marching ants here, but you can see it's on the outside of the box here too. Now that's selected all that information, and if I start making an adjustment, it's going to be on everything but the leg, which is hard to tell because that's a black and white leg.